In the year 324, the Roman Empire has changed. Until the year 324, the Romans are pagans. What we have all over this area are temples for different gods, like Aphrodite, like Venus, like Zeus, you name it. Different pagan gods. In 324, almost 400 years, guys, after the times of Jesus, Christianity is announced as the official religion of the Roman Empire. And they changed the name to the Byzantine Empire. Still Italian, still speaking Italian, eating pizza and lasagna, but this time they're not worshipping Aphrodite, but Jesus. And instead of the temple for Venus, it's a church. Okay? So they changed their religion. It's the same empire, but the religion has changed from paganism to Christianity. And again, this is almost 300, to be exact, 324 years after the times of Christ. So in these centuries, in that time, we have small communities, very, very first believers of Jesus that we call the Judeo-Christians, the very first group of followers, mostly living here and in the Galilee, where Jesus was most active in, and later on becoming bigger and bigger circles, until one day the Roman Emperor Constantine has a revelation, has an epiphany, and he changes the entire religion of the entire empire. So far we good? So when I'm saying a Byzantine church, it's about the 4th century. When I'm saying 4th, 5th, 6th century, always take one number down. So if I'm saying the 6th century, what hundred am I talking about? Fantastic, very smart. Byzantine time, and then the next jump that we're going to see in a lot of churches is going to be Roman time, ruins, and then Byzantine, and then Crusaders. Okay? This is pretty much, thank you love, are the ruins that we're going to see. Same in this place. We got the original ruins from the times of Jesus that we're going to see. They're 2,000 years old. After that, in the 5th century, we got Byzantine church, and then the Crusaders in the 14th century. St. Peter in Gallicanto represents a very, very important event just at the very last journey of Jesus. We're not going to stand in the sun too much. I just want to point out something that I am going to talk about when we're at the Jewish border. So pause with the story of this church. I want us to look over here. So if we were talking about Mount of Olives, it's this mountain right here in front of us. Remember the pencil? We saw it from Mount Caiphus, right? Guys, what are all these white little things on the mountain? Graves, fantastic. It's a Jewish cemetery that is still active until today. There is all three religions have very, very connected traditions to Mount of Olives. The Jews, the Muslims, and the Christians believe that at the days of the redemption, the Messiah will come from Mount of Olives. That's why, except for these graves on Mount of Olives, every grave in Jerusalem is facing east. So in the days of the Messiah, people that will rise up will be facing the Messiah. So like we said, Jesus is making his way down from Mount of Olives to the place that is called Gethsemane. We can't really see the church from here. And then from Gethsemane, he makes his way to here, to the house of the high priest, Caiphus' house that we're going to see. Well, he was waiting for his trial. The Jews believe that, and the Muslims, that the days of the redemption, there is going to be a bridge that will be built between Mount of Olives and the platform Temple Mount. And the bridge is going to be dark as the night and thin as a human's hair and sharp as a knife. And all the believers will have to walk from Mount of Olives to Temple Mount. All the righteous will make it to Temple Mount, and all the sinners will fall down to hell. So you'll see a mosque on Mount of Olives, that's why. You'll see a cemetery, a Jewish cemetery, that's why. You'll see a lot of churches on Mount of Olives, that's why. And it's incredible that one geographical place has such a really hardcore connection to all three biggest monotheistic religions in the world. So that is one thing about what we can see. It's still active, as I said. I promise I'm going to talk more about the Golden Dome, but I want you to see, guys, this gray dome on the right side of the Golden Dome. That is the mosque. That is where the Muslims are praying. That is called the Al-Aqsa Mosque. We're going to talk about it later on. The Golden Dome, guys, it's not a mosque. They're not praying there. I'll explain more later on. Zooming in, we're good? Everything we see over here, all the houses down the valley, it's called Silwan, the Silwan village. And the people that are living here are Arabs that define themselves as Palestinians. We're not really going to dive into the conflict and what it's about, but I just want to say this. In Israel, we have the Israeli Arabs, the Arabs that accepted Israeli citizenship after the establishment of Israel in 1948, and they pay taxes, they go to school, they have the same rights and the same duties just as me. The only thing that makes them different than me when it comes to rights and duties is that they don't have to serve in the army. They don't have to serve in the army. Everyone that is not Jewish, it's not mandatory for them to serve in the army. They can volunteer, but it's not mandatory. We have another group of Muslims living in Israel that define themselves as Palestinian. The first original name of Israel, even in the British Mandate between 1917 and 1948, this place is called Palestine. So Palestinian are also the Jews that lived here before Israel was established in 1948. My great-great-grandparents that lived here, they also will be considered Palestinian because this is the name of the place. The Palestinians are the Muslims that are living here in Israel, and they have a national desire to build a state that is a Palestinian state within the borders of Israel. These guys are not citizens of Israel. They live in two main territories. One of them is a territory mentioned in the Bible we're gonna call Judea and Samaria, or you might have heard the same territory under a different name, the West Bank. Okay, I'll show you where it is on the map. And the Gaza Strip. These are the two territories that the Palestinians in Israel are living in. The third territory, that is a sub-territory, is East Jerusalem. It's these guys over here. The Palestinians are not citizens of Israel. The West Bank is under the Palestinian Authority, and the Palestinians in Gaza are led by Hamas. These guys are not under the Palestinian Authority. It's right here in Jerusalem, right in front of us, and they're not in Gaza. So who's ruling them? Who is in charge of them? Pretty much Israel. They will follow the rules of the PLO, the Palestinian Authority, but they will have the rights as a Jerusalemite citizen. So they're not citizens because they won't accept citizenship. If they accept citizenship, what does it mean to them? I give up on the dream of having a Palestinian state, right? So they never accepted citizenship. They never accepted the Israeli idea that was offered in the 50s. So now their status is residents, okay? So they have some of the rights and some of the duties. They can vote for municipality, but they cannot vote for the government, exactly, for the prime minister. So they're in a tricky position. So that's these guys over here in Silwan village. One more thing that you guys might have heard of. Guys, you see on the mountain there's a big antenna? Yeah? And you might see a concrete wall. I don't know if you heard about the security wall or the separation wall, or some called it in the media the apartheid wall. A lot of different names for the same wall. This wall was built in 2002 after the second Palestinian uprising that we call Intifada in Arabic, in order to prevent from suicide bombers going from the West Bank, which is behind these walls, to Jerusalem and making terror attacks. Since 2002, since it was built, the percentage of terror attacks coming from the West Bank has gone down to
Zero.
zero. Absolutely no terror attacks, because people that wants to go from the West Bank to the territory of Israel will have to go through a checkpoint where they have to show papers and they have to go through a security check, making sure they're not carrying any weapons or ammunition. In reality, what happens is that Israel reduced the amount of terror attacks coming from the West Bank. All the previous terror attacks are being made by either Israeli Arabs or Palestinians that are residents. But in reality, I want to show you, as much as I can be objective and neutral, when you build a wall between people, you also stop communication. Every wall. So this wall has a lot of consequences with how do we communicate with one another. How can I talk with Tahir if there's a wall between us and he can't see me? He can't know anything about me except that I'm the person, I'm the side that put a wall preventing his freedom of movement. So it's very complicated. I just want you to see it because it is a part of the reality here in Israel.